Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. I'm so glad you're with us to stay curious. It's the holiday season, so I'm bringing out all the jack-o'-lanterns I can find. Hello, Carleton Bailie. How are
Hello.
you, my good
I am
friend?
doing just marvelous. Anytime I come down here is just like it just pumps me up.
Well, we know we're going to see you more down here. You keep
I
threatening to be a docent and all that, but Carleton Bailie is a world-renowned rocket photographer, actually space photojournalist. You've got 40 years in the business.
I start my 41st year in December this year.
Awesome. And about how many rocket launches you think you've
Um,
not the streaking that we'd love to talk about, but the rocket launches. Yeah.
um,
Okay.
I'd say, well, last official count was 635, and that was 2 years ago when the Lucy project went up. So it's closer to, well, it's over 700, and a lot of them, I'll be honest, I'm shooting from the front yard now at three
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning because you never know when or if they're going up, and they're getting so on a regular basis that you miss one or two, and uh, they're still exciting.
Well, hard not to miss because let's face it, the one you miss is the one that might have an anomaly,
That's right.
and everyone will be laughing at you because you didn't have your lens on it there. But CB's done some great photography. We're gonna show you a few things about it. And we're gonna have a shorter show. Maybe I don't know. I gotta say shorter show. We're gonna try to get out of here in a half hour or so. That's why I have a tie on. There's an announcement that I'll make here in just a little bit at the end of the show. So stay curious for that, folks out there. I did not bring my smart tablet in to see who's watching at the moment, but Marty will let me know that. And we got John Grissom over helping us now. John, thank you very much. His wife, Space Coast Sam, broke all records when we had her on a couple weeks ago with 2,000 viewers. And we're going to have Sam and uh, John be very much involved here with this production of this. And this is what we're looking for. As you know, we're all segueing into a new era, so to speak, for the American Space Museum. Before I get going too far, I want to say hi to Marty Winkle. Thank you for giving me a day off yesterday. And the 1001st show in February was re-aired with Jonathan Ward there. Jonathan did the book on Eileen Collins, Through the Glass Ceiling, most recently. And really, I think it's a definitive book on Columbia, bringing Columbia home with Mike Lineback.
Hmm.
What do what's your take on those books?
Um, if you're going to believe anything in any book, I would think that the two of them, especially with Mike Linebaugh
Yeah.
involved, that that's going to be probably the closest that you'd ever get to what actually happened.
And it's a lot about the people involved, written by Mike Leinbach with Jonathan Ward. Jonathan is a social media monster, great friend of our museum. Wrote two books on the Rocket Ranch, Cape Canaveral, in the early days. And he does cruises all over the world. I think he's still trying to get out of the South Pacific. I think he's on a cruise there. He does these riverboat cruises
Right.
as the astronomer. Real envious job there, but we loved it. Check it out. What a great reprise we had yesterday. I apologize I didn't have this slide up to tell everybody that I was off today, but yesterday because I picked the wrong date to load it up there. Marty Winkle's my co-producer for over 4 years. Marty, you got a comment or question?
We have a comment from Tom Usiak. He's saying, I want to invite Carlton right now to be on our photographing humble panel for Shuttlefest. What do you say, CB?
As long as it's not on Sunday. I think I have a prior commitment on that Sunday.
Saturday is Hubble Saturday, April 12th, or here for our fourth annual Shuttle Fest, celebrating 35 years of the Hubble telescope. And yes, that panel is the first panel on Saturday afternoon. So,
And I can make Saturday
all
afternoon.
right, Tom Usiak is putting together a photographing the Hubble. So get your White Room pictures out. Did you ever shoot it in White Room? Shoot, it's what we call photography, folks.
I
Just
shot it both horizontal and vertical.
Oh, okay. Well, you got both two columns and the 3 or 4 column widespread.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there.
Got to do the vertical
And
for a cover.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, anyway, just an outstanding. Marty, you might come down just a little bit. You know, I like seeing my shirt pocket there, but we can't see the cat with the laser gun on top of a dinosaur that's celebrating Halloween there. So,
Oh, look, oh, the green on the green screen. It's
yeah, the green screen. Oh, yeah, you got a hole in your heart there, buddy. In more ways than one. But there's a real good reason why I have this guy on here today, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to all get very familiar. Oh, I want to go the other way. That was my takeout. Gabriel Rothblatt is our executive director. I want you all to get to know Gabriel. We've got to know each other last March, and he is taking care of all the financial side of our museum while I am the museum director, taking care of the day-to-day and the things that I've always taken care of. So it's I feel very good about this relationship with Gabriel, and he will segue out of that role sometime early next summer, and then I'll assume both roles is what the plan is. But those you can make plans, but you can't plan the outcome. So
That's
I'm
right.
just happy doing what we're doing day to day here. So and part of why I have you here today is to talk about a person who is involved with this magazine that gave you this awesome cover there. I don't know if you can move us just a little bit, Marty, so you can get that rocket there for a moment. But Carleton, when I saw this photograph in our archives, I said, I can't wait. I want to know who that photographer was, because this was one film and before GPS smartphones. And so that was one hell of a shot, my friend. When was that in the Aviation Week in Space Technology?
January 2000.
January 2000. Just at the beginning.
400 ASA Kodak
Wow, film.
film.
And you just, how did you line up the moon and the rocket like that?
I didn't. It was a DoD flight and on the Atlas rocket, and we were in a holding pattern, and we're all lined up at the press site there, and we're holding, and you're not really paying attention other than what's going on, and you don't see the moon rising, and did not even realize the moon was there until after it went through the moon. And as soon as it was out of sight, we all kind of looked at each other going like, did we see what we just think we saw? And it turns out, and being film, we didn't know till the next day. The Orlando Sentinel fellow was on my left side. He had one of these newfangled digital cameras.
Oh yeah,
and
the Kodak D50 probably, the little brick.
He got it going through the moon. His was more up toward with the flame in the middle of it, and because it was digital, it was fairly well blown out. And the fellow that was 2 feet to my right, it went up beside the moon. So it just so happened that I was in the right place at the right time. And had it been 15 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, what a cover to Cape Canaveral flies into the 21st century. And there was a special man who was the editor of the Aviation Week in Space Technology.
The fellow he was the local editor down here. He was the Cape Canaveral's Florida Space editor. Senior editor is Harry Colcom.
Harry Colcom.
And he had been stationed over in Europe. I think he was a European editor for a while, and did the Paris and Switzerland. And so yeah, he was actually, he had an office down in Cape Canaveral, and I would go down there. I started working with him in 87, I believe in late 87 it might have been, where I happened to get a Titan shot. And back then it was like, the Air Force would say, yes, we launched something, but they wouldn't tell what pad it was. They wouldn't tell what it was. They would just say, yeah, we launched something. So it was, and you had to go stake it out for a couple days beforehand. You just kind of knew word of mouth, and there were certain things that would tell you. And I sent it into Av Week, and they say, yeah, we want to use it. And I'm like, nah, don't pull my leg. But back then, Av Week, it was essentially the Bible of the aerospace
Aviation
industry.
Week, like your Newsweek or Time magazine.
And I don't sound that to be disrespectful of the Bible, but it was people, airline pilot, everybody in the world would read it and to find out what's going on. And at one point, it was actually called Aviation Week in Space Technology, because if there was something classified going on, they'd have the blueprints in there, I think, before it would go up in space.
Yeah, there's people that have told me they've signed non-disclosure agreements working on the Department of Defense payloads, and then they see the name of the payload and everything about it in Aviation Week Space Technology, but they still can't talk about it because they signed a disclosure agreement. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Harry Colcom here towards the end of the show. That's why I'm setting this up that way. Also wanted to, when I had Gabriel up there, I failed to mention that we got this notice in our museum today. I believe Anita Truex, our office manager, received this today, that a gentleman named Dennis Reichert, R-A-I-C-H-A-R-T, Dennis Reichert, passed away today at age, and he spent his 75th birthday in the American Space Museum. That was how he wanted to celebrate his 75th anniversary here. And that kind of strikes me as old, but then wait a minute,
That's
75.
That's just around the corner. For
Yeah,
some of us.
but he was a NASA contractor, and the family of Dennis Reichert, we hope you're watching Stay Curious. We send our condolences and sympathies from the American Space Museum, and that's definitely something we should do more of through our Facebook and other social media channels, is provide an outlet for people to know that some of these people who worked at, quote, the Rocket Ranch out at Cape Canaveral or Kennedy Space Center, such a, as we know, you're an outsider photographing them, but what a family, what a group of people that enjoy getting together and talking about.
Back in the shuttle day, we'd see each other at least probably once a month, and you could catch up and
Yeah.
do this. And now you're lucky to see once a year.
Right, at the Rocket Reunion, they call it, in November at the Moose. That's coming up here. Marty, thank you for being on the board here today, and we've got John that's going to be helping us out here. But you've got, we've been doing Marty's trivia question of the day, and since we didn't have one on the repeat yesterday, I know Steve Jokums is going to be wanting a trivia question. So, Marty, I'm going to let you, we didn't make a slide or meme for it. So, Marty, what is your trivia question today? And we'll remind them of it later before we reveal the answer.
Where did the term paperclip come from in Project Paperclip?
And Project Paperclip was, Carleton?
I'll let Steve answer that one.
Oh, but where did the term come from? But that was bringing Werner von Braun and all of the Nazi V-2 rocket people over here to the Redstone missile site.
okay.
And they called that Operation Paperclip.
Every time I learn something,
And
it
I don't
pushes
know
something else out.
that at all. I don't even know what to guess there. Some secretary had a paperclip on the paper that Eisenhower signed. No, it'd been Truman signing it, probably, is what I'm going to say. So that's a good one. Where did the term paperclip come from on Project Paperclip that brought our rocket engineers that took us to the moon here in America? So, well, of course, when I have CB with me, we want to have a little fun and a little better eye candy than here and I can provide. And there's Ellie in space.
Yep.
Now, it looks like the red door to an Episcopal church. You didn't try to stick vows to her, did you?
No, I was there for confessional. No, that was
That's right.
I was actually down at Zarella's in
Uh-huh.
their back dining room where we were having dinner that night with Ellie and
Right.
no, MarQ was here. I don't know if Tom was here. I think you were down there. It was a space hipster kind of space gathering.
Ellie's one of the monster social media people on YouTube with her Ellie in Space, and she does a lot of once a week. She does it more often than that, but a lot of production value in that, along with the Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. I've met both of them and just love what they're doing, how they're promoting stuff, and she's very smart. And she was a newspaper or a TV newscaster, is how she got her chops, and this is her passion. So Ellie in Space, will give her a little shout out there for her YouTube channel, and she's got Fodzilla there, and Marty, his shielding his eyes from that Braves logo there. Okay, yeah. So he's a
retired
Yankee
this year.
fan. All right. So, and you got one of your other ensembles there with
That's right. The kitty cat.
the
and
kitty
great white
cat on
shark.
the shark there. That's also one of my favorites there. So, Carleton, we got crew 8 back, and the media. I just love reading things like this. Stranded NASA SpaceX crew 8 astronauts set for splashdown within hours. They've been stranded, man, up there.
I know, and I saw another one that said they came back, but they left Sonny and
The
Butch
other
up there.
stranded,
The
yeah.
other stranded
Yeah,
ones up there.
Yeah, they didn't bring them back to set them up there.
I wonder where. Well, you know,
Nobody is stranded on the International Space Station.
they could come back.
There's always room in one of those spacecraft to bring them back.
If they had to come back, they could have easily switched out with somebody else, left that person up there,
Yeah.
that crew up there for an extra 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
And the crew now that Soyuz spacecraft can only bring back 3 people.
Right.
The Russians, so there's no room for anybody else. But we send 4 up in the SpaceX Crew Dragon, and they could actually get 7 in there. Is what it's actually rated for, and they're hoping to fly 6 people sometime.
Right.
But it's a very big, bold exaggeration that they're stranded. They're yes, Sonny and Butch on an 8-day cruise has turned into 180 days so far, but and that's not what they signed up for. But this is the unknown, and they know what they signed up for, the unknown. So they're expected to go along with anything that happens there. So, when I read this yesterday, I'm going stranded. These people, they were up there 2 weeks longer than they were supposed to because the weather wasn't right to bring them back on either a hurricane roaring through for 1 week and then choppy seas for another week. And quite frankly, they all probably enjoyed being up there that time because they didn't have a NASA schedule of we got to do this, and this every day. They could lay back and help do some honeydews around the International Space Station.
The weather is iffy. It's during the shuttle period. It would be perfect weather here, say for a launch.
Mm-hmm.
Not a cloud in the sky, but if the overseas were socked in, the overseas transatlantic abort sites were all rainy and socked in. They couldn't launch. Trying to explain to people why you didn't launch in perfect crystal
weather here, because if the shuttle got in trouble, it would have to emergency
And
land in North Africa or Spain or.
We don't have any of these GoPro cameras like you have at the port showing you 24/7 out in the middle of the ocean what it's looking like out there. And if the seas are bad out there, we have to take their word for it.
That's right. So they did make it back, but you told me some news that you mentioned I hadn't been able to get too much.
Well, I just saw it actually just a couple minutes before we came on the air here that I read earlier where they took them out of precautionary mode to
the astronauts. They came back on the Gulf side over by Pensacola.
Pensacola, and they flew them into the Pensacola. They took them to Pensacola Hospital over there as a routine checkup kind of thing, saying just as precautionary. And right before we came in here, I did see a story, and I'll have to research it more, but that they kept one of them, which they're not saying which one or for reasons why, but evidently 3 of them were released, and one they were keeping in the hospital for more observation.
Well, stay curious about that. They can't hide that forever, and I'll be looking for more information about that.
NASA's very close to the what do they call it? They're close to themselves. They usually won't tell you what kind of medical problem doesn't let you fly, keeps you grounded, happens to you up in space. So it would surprise me if NASA comes out and says, okay, we kept him in the hospital or her in the hospital or whatever in the hospital, because that's usually up to the astronaut if the astronaut wants to or cosmonaut wants to go public with it.
Well, it's like anybody's medical history.
It's a HIPAA Act.
Well, you know, I have a go-to person that I'm always going to believe what this person writes. Do you have one too? Maybe we're thinking the same one.
Um, I have a couple.
Bill Harwood's who
Oh
I'm
yeah,
thinking of. CBS. He's the dean of space
Bill's
journalist. Bill Harwood. He sat in this chair and gave us a nice
known
program
him for
about a year
about
ago.
40 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
if Bill says it, then you
So
can
if
pretty
you
much
want to
take it to the
go on
bank.
X and Bill Harwood of CBS, he whatever he puts on there is going to be the gospel. I guarantee it, and a great guy to boot. Well, we wish them well. We hope to hear more about it. We had 14 humans orbiting the Earth until about 3:30 this morning, and now we're down to, let's see, 14 minus 4. What does that make? 10, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
10.
it makes 10.
10.
Surely it makes 10. All right. All right. Don't get your feet off. Don't take your
Oh,
shoes off. Fair
no,
enough.
no, no, no.
All right. All right. Well, we got a happy birthday, you know, on Stay Curious and our Facebook. We love giving shout outs to astronaut birthdays. And this guy was a special person to meet. Happy 89th birthday to Rusty Schweikert of Apollo 9, but he's so much more than that. Russell Lewis Rusty Schweikert was born October 25th, 1935, in Neptune Township, New Jersey, and grew up on he describes it, a hard scrabble farm of 45 acres, producing hay and vegetables, plus raising poultry and cows. I think he said he didn't see had radio, but he didn't see TV for 10, 15 years. He was 1963 selected in NASA's third group of astronauts, and he was the lunar pilot on the March 1969 Apollo 9 mission that did all of the checks outs of the Grumman lunar module, who our Marty Winkle worked on. And Marty, you said many times that was a very important mission for you Grummies. If you want to comment, I'll ask you to comment here in a minute about Rusty or Apollo 9. Commander Jim McDivitt has passed away, and David Scott is 92 years old. And David Scott later walked on the moon, and only 4 of them are left: Harrison Schmitt, Charlie Duke, and of course Buzz Aldrin. And they tested the spacesuit that was going to be used on the moon landing. Now this was March of '69. Then we had the barnstorming of the moon in May by Apollo 10 that did everything but land, and then June was Apollo 11.
Right.
3 launches 2 months apart of this gigantic Saturn V rocket. And yawn, when's that Artemis going to launch again there, big boy?
I'm hearing late next year.
Yeah,
If
we're
they
lucky
get-
if Artemis 2 is launched a year from now. And the last Artemis was launched, it'll be 2 years. Or is it 3? Yeah, 2 years ago,
2 years
coming
ago.
up in November. So, not the pace that the Apollo guys like Marty were used to. There's how Rusty signs his there. And this was an artist rendering of what he was supposed to do. He was actually going to transfer from the porch where the astronauts would go out and go down the ladder of the lunar module and go back into the command module. But he's the first astronaut that they acknowledge of getting space sickness.
Okay.
And he was a little woozy, and all he did do was just the stand-up part of that EVA. There you see the ladder and the lunar module on the back there. Not many good pictures of this by Jim McDivitt, but that's okay. He took some awesome shots of Ed White's spacewalk on Gemini 4 there. But one of the few pictures of Rusty out there on the porch, and now you can see that is the moon suit with the personal life support system, the PLSS on the back there. But that was an abbreviated thing because he was a little bit under the weather. But boy, last November 16th, we had these 3 astronauts here, Jack Lausma and Rusty Schweikert, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Skylab, because Rusty was a backup astronaut in the Skylab. And Nicole Stott was here. One of our favorites for sure. She did a book signing November 18th last year here.
Always
so
fun. Always fun.
always a fun gal. She lives over in St. Petersburg. She and her husband Chris, with their son Roman, are getting out from underneath the hurricane damage there. I think she had a foot of water in her house over there. Saw some pictures of it. But Marty, I'll have you comment now. I was super surprised at how nice Rusty Wallace was. He doesn't like talking a whole lot
Wallace?
about Apollo 9, huh?
There's your NASCAR. Rusty
Oh, I said
Wallace.
Rusty Wallace.
NASCAR.
Yeah, NASCAR. I had many a meal with Rusty Wallace. Yeah, Rusty Schweikert, and once redheaded, is left NASA to serve for 2 years under Governor Jerry Brown in California as a science and technology assistant. But he founded the Association of Space Explorers in 1984, co-founded the Association of Space Explorers. You know how you join that? What the membership requirement of that is?
No.
You have to orbit the Earth at least once.
In a spacecraft or an airplane?
No, spacecraft.
Oh, okay.
In a spacecraft. Yeah, that's a good question. They have allowed suborbital people in there lately, which is not set well with a couple astronauts like Charlie Walker, for example. But then he co-founded in 2002 the B612 Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to defending the Earth from asteroid impacts, along with former astronaut Ed Lu. There are 2 planetary scientists, and they are serious folks about helping putting in place a planetary defense mechanism so that we're not surprised when a asteroid or large object hits the Earth like did the dinosaurs 65 million years ago and puts us out. Now, you recently photographed a launch that is part of the planetary defense program. I forget the name of it. It's going to the same asteroid where they put hit it with a 2-ton object that did move this asteroid orbiting another asteroid. It moved its orbit, and that's what they wanted to prove. So we're going back and see what that crater looked like. How is the distribution of the kinetic energy? What we need to do on there. So Rusty loves talking about that kind of stuff, and he loves. What blew me away, Marty, was Rusty Schweikert talking about space law and that sort of thing. So have you got anything to say about Rusty?
Nothing more than what you were talking about. Nothing more than you were saying, Mark. I mean, he's one of those astronauts that are just so easy to talk to. Nice guy. He always came across me as relatively quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But on a personal note, he was the second astronaut I met in 1966.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. I met Fred Hayes first, and I met Rusty, and then Jim McDivitt.
And of course, being with the lunar module, he's been invited to your Grumman events. I don't know how many he attended, but over the years, he never attended it. The Grummies met frequently on anniversaries of stuff there. So he is 89 years old, and he was in great spirits and health when we saw him there. So happy birthday to Rusty Schweikert, wherever you're at. And I haven't seen Rusty Wallace in a long time, but he's got a whole slew of dealerships in Rogersville, Tennessee, and
he's probably glad somebody's keeping his name alive.
That's right. Rusty Wallace, one of the great drivers of the old school NASCAR era there. So going to talk about a little space events that happened, but here is a very cool shot of you. And you're on top of the vehicle assembly building, correct? 550 feet in the air.
Right, and that's my camera rig behind me there. And
but Harry Colcom liked this picture of you, and
well, I can't remember whether it was Harry or Craig Koval, but I had a big
another editor
for the time. But this picture actually ran in Aviation Week. They had a behind the scenes at the very front of the magazine every month. And they would have somebody that had contributed something to the magazine that issue. And that issue, I had done a layout, and they used a lot of my launch photos. And because of that, they wanted a behind the scenes picture of myself. And this was the only one I had. And so I gave it to the editor, and I said, now, look, we got these little guys were up there with me, and it's Fodsy in my right hand and Space Fodzilla on the left hand.
Oh, Space Fods. I see he's got these little things on his shoulder pads there.
So I said, this is the only one I got. And he said, well, go ahead. We're going to send it up. And if they say anything, we'll tell them it's some kind of a self-made camera release
Uh-huh.
cord that you're using. So that actually ran in Aviation Week. So
What flight were you up there to get? Remember?
117 maybe? No, something.
Okay.
I
117. Let me consult the scroll here. That would put you back in 2000. The shuttle scroll here. That's around 2007, something like that, 17 years ago. So is that a wig? What do you
yeah,
have on there? You
yeah.
don't have any gray hair, man.
I got a few. There's a little around there.
Yeah, you blonde guys, you can hide it there pretty good. But anyway, well, that's a cool picture of you up there, looking at the pad over there. And in front of you is the landing strip, isn't it?
No, that's actually the edge of the vehicle assembly building. That, although it's 15 feet away, it's
Oh, that ledge down
the
there.
ledge
Yeah, yeah.
down there.
Well,
Yeah,
you can see the landing strip from there because I know
it would be behind
behind
us.
you there. All right, all right.
And that's the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, consulting the scroll here a little further in space history today, Pam Melroy, we've talked about it, was commanding the second spaceship ever by a woman. Of course, Eileen Collins was the first, and it was launched October 23rd, 17 years ago.
That's what launched this.
So that's what launched that was Discovery. Took Harmony mode up there, important docking module for the ISS. And it was up there till November. So what they did take up there was what Mark Hamill has in his hands there in the first Star Wars of the series. The actual lightsaber was taken up there. Do you know that?
No.
Well, now you
Well,
do.
I probably. Yeah.
Yeah, they took the lightsaber up there, so that's a little bit of space trivia today to ask you: are you Star Wars or are you Star Trek?
Original Star Wars, the first three, which was actually 4, 5, and 6,
Mm-hmm.
and anything after that, not so much. Star Trek, the original. After that, I needed a program to figure out who's who and what year, and so the first original 3 Star Wars and the first season of Star Trek, and after that I moved on to more Godzilla things.
Okay, yeah, Godzilla's always there, and the first Godzilla has a very famous actor in it, Raymond Burr.
That's right.
Raymond Burr, who was Ironsides, and of course Perry Mason, that people know
Well,
him
it
as
also
that.
has a Star Trek Rodan and Godzilla movies. The originals, when they came over and dubbed them, the Star Trek convention or Star Trek connection is Sulu, the fellow that played Sulu in the original, did the voiceovers and did the translating of the first few Godzilla monster movies that came over here and were dubbed into English.
Well, of course, part of being a photojournalist and what I like about my job is rubbing elbows with the occasional astronaut. And there's Nikki Stott there, who's just a wonderful person. One of the hardest working astronauts out there. I know Don Thomas works hard, and Tom Jones is very much out there and so forth. But she really likes Carleton. Me, not so much. All right, so, get your arm off me, I think she's saying there, Marquette. So, in there, so love you, Nikki, and appreciate you endorsing everything that we're doing here at the American Space Museum after losing our leader here. Just a couple one rocket launch picture there. That is the launch of this spacecraft here that you got a close-up of, the famous Starliner. This was a used spaceship. That's why it's got that burn mark on it there from the uncrewed launch that it had. But CB, that's a beautiful, beautiful launch there of the Atlas V rocket in the 2 solid rocket booster configuration. What was that launch like last March?
It was so different because it had people on board, had a crew on board, and
brings up the level of
the
what's
excitement.
going on.
Yeah, anytime there's a crew on board, there's a little bit more heart-stopping, heart-pounding kind of thing. You go like, okay, well, it's a little. If something happens on an unpersoned launch or uncrewed launch, it's horrible. But with a crew on board, I'm glad it was during the day. We could see it. It was a picture perfect launch there, and it was good to see it finally get up. And I hope we don't have to wait
Yeah.
too many more years before we see it go up again.
Well, we're not going to rehash that it had thruster problems. Most of the NASA old timers I know would have never launched it because they knew that one of those thrusters was leaking on the pad. And it ended up landing okay safely. I'm not still sure that they're keeping some secrets, that some things didn't go wrong. I've read a few things that they did have a few thruster issues, but anyway, that could be a one and done for Starliner. We'll find out. We'll find out. So, well, I want to bring on the surprise of this program. If you scoot over here, I'm going to announce something here, and I'm going to bring on my sister Sherry Sheldon from
No,
Matthews. I knew I was going to say that. I knew I was going to say that because it rhymes together. This is my sister Sherry Matthews and a wonderful husband Jerry Matthews. Come over here, buddy. I want to get you just get in between the rows between two thorns there, okay? And Marty may have to do the adjustment there. And I'm so glad that you're here, sis. The reason why we're doing this and the surprise is that there is a event tonight by the National Space Club, and that event is awards for the Lifetime Achievement Award, the Colcom News and Communications Award, Rising Star Award, and Space Worker Hall of Fame. And quite a lot of workers and space dignitaries are going to be honored tonight. It was pushed back 2 weeks because of the hurricane, but because of that, I get the serendipity of my sister showing up here for me, coming all the way from West Texas. So because I have been honored as the recipient of the Harry Colcom News Communications Award there with Steve Young, and Steve is the editor of Spaceflight Now. Is that what Steve does?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know him, and he's never met me either. But apparently, we're both the best BSers in the communication business,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Because they finally gave me an award for it, sis. What can you say there? So,
Well, yes, mom enough.
yeah. But truly a big surprise for me. I'm not an awards guy. I don't live for that sort of thing. I'm not saying everybody does that got the award, but I joined Nick Thomas, who does a program with us and is a 37 years out the Space Center. He's won that award. I hope he doesn't want to give his back when he finds out that I won it. But so I'm just flabbergasted, and Marty's dressed up to go. A bunch of our staff's going here. Nita Truex, Connie McDaniel, awesome the volunteer she is. Marty's there. We're going to have Gabriel there. Our board of directors chairman is going to be there, Larry Osterly. And, Marty, who's somebody who we had on there, as I make that big, is Ken Joseph. Ken Joseph was the finance guy that he had on here that told us it costs $4.6 billion with a B dollars to launch Artemis. So Artemis 2 is going to be over $5 billion, and they just can't sustain that. So but Sherry, just want everyone hear your voice a minute there. But she's always Marquette's sister. Okay. On there. So thank you. What have you got to say about anything?
Nothing. That growing up, you were always out there with your telescope at night, telling us you were out there stargazing. But he was out.
When I was a
Maybe at his
teenager,
girlfriend's house.
yeah, once in a while, yeah. Mom busted me when she said, "You said you were stargazing last night, and I happened to go see if you wanted a cup of cocoa or something, and you weren't out there. And in fact, Mark, it was drizzling and it was cloudy, and I was over at James.
One hell of a telescope.
Yeah, one hell of a telescope, see through all that. But yes, I drug her out to the eyepiece. You know where it started? I know you probably don't remember, but Green Acre Drive. We were 8 years old there. and Ron Lozier, the Lozier family lived beside us, and he actually congratulated me the other day on my promotion out there. So, just
Didn't we have sleeping bags or something out there?
yep, yep, we did. We had a bunch of there was a huge 5 or 6 houses in the subdivision made one big backyard, and we played football and had tents all the time back there and so forth. So thank you everybody for your congratulations on there. This is, Richard Nixon, when he went to the Hornet to see the Apollo 11 astronauts, said this is the greatest week in human history. And this is pretty much the greatest week in Mark Marquette's history here, being named the director of the museum, and then this award, which we've known about for over a month.
You have a birthday coming up.
And I do have a birthday coming up. Thank you. And you do too at the end of the month. We're just a month apart.
A month and a year.
Yeah, right. Clear that up. Yeah. Yeah, right. And there's always a smile on my face when Mom says that we were together. I was the good big brother taking care of my little sister a lot, and when we were in our preteens, until we were 10 years old or something like that, in there. I'm saying when we were 7 or 8. This would not all be possible without my relationship with Karen Conklin, who we lost. This is not because of her death so untimely of cancer 2 months ago, but because when I met her 7 years ago doing a column for my column that I wrote 22 years in Johnson City, Tennessee on space and astronomy, we just got each other, and I knew I was going to move down here after talking to this lady about my article. She answered my questions, and we looked at our watches, and 2 hours later, back in the conference room, she's going like, wow, and she's talking about the museum and that it was down on a downtrend, and SpaceX was going to bring it back, like it did the whole community. And I love you, Karen. I miss you a lot. We've replaced you with 2 people, so hope that but we're going to carry on her ideas, and we will have a permanent remembrance of Karen. But it's hard for me to even talk about her because I really love this woman. I've said it several times, and I'll probably say it tonight. She's the only woman who's changed my life that I never married. and that's the truth. And didn't want to marry her. She's had a beautiful, happy husband with Mark Conklin, but she certainly was something else. And we really did some good work here at the American Space Museum. So gotta honor that, and then just gotta tease my little sister here. And our mom took that shot. That's me on the right with the ball, and our little brother Craig in the middle there, and Cocoa Beach, where we were at today in there.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
That's
and that's
cool.
something we
Yeah.
actually lived in Winter Park for 1 year, and then I think Mom just got homesick from our Northwest Ohio roots in Findlay, Ohio, where it all started for me. But yeah, that's a pretty cute picture there. And Mom, when my mother's 92 and wishes she was here, and God bless you, Mom, because Sherry's really taken wonderful care of her, and though she's a very independent lady and living by herself, but and I keep telling her, Mom, it all started with you, and our fear of the wooden spoon.
Is real.
If it's real, yeah. You sent me a picture of a T-shirt. I feared the wooden spoon. That was how we were disciplined in the 50s as baby boomers. So, but a cute little picture there of us growing up here. That was 1962. All right, is when that picture was taken, sis.
Should go back and recreate it. Well, she's
Yeah, right.
And I wanted to throw your daughter, Andrea, in there. Pretty picture. I just happen to have a you two there because I wish I lived closer to see your beautiful daughter. And my niece is kind of a chip off the old block of me newspaper and media. She has her own media company and has been an outstanding overachiever in San Angelo, Texas. She has a lady partner friend of hers, doesn't she? They've done that together. But I'm as proud of her as you guys are of me. I really am, and that's why I want her to know that that she's always in my thoughts. In fact, you sent me a picture of a new billboard she had in San Angelo
Yeah.
promoting her business.
Yeah.
And she was shocked as could be. I just picked up the phone, called her, and told whoever. I said, I'm Mark Marquette. I'm Andy's uncle, and I want to talk to her. And so, and actually, she gave me a couple tips on something. So, surprise, surprise.
Oh, I
Just,
didn't know that. That's cool.
yeah, she did. I could probably talk to her more, but I'm the older one. You need to call me about stuff that I've
Yes.
learned in there. But no. So thank you, Sherry, for being here. It means so much. We have a small family, and sometimes we think we put the fun in dysfunction, but I think every family thinks that at some point in their lives in there. And it just means a lot that you're here, and
I'm glad to be here.
and for coming on this show, humble little show here. But I brought CB on. Basically, look at CB there
That
back
was
in
a
the
long
day.
time ago.
Yeah.
Because though I'm humbled and just blindsided by this Harry Colcom Award, I knew nothing about the gentleman. I knew that people like John Zarella had gotten it. Last year, it was given to Robert Perlman, who does an outstanding job of collect space.
Mhm.
They do a communicator and a journalist person. All right. So John Young, Steve is the Steve Young. I mean, is the journalist person this year. But our buddy Zarella won it. Nick Thomas.
Red Huber when he was
Lisa Malone, we're going to see her in just a second. But there's Harry Colcom. I couldn't Google his name and pull up a picture. Just your typical obscure editor.
Well, back then we didn't have internet, so a lot of things didn't go online back in the 80s and the 90s until it made it big. And so anything that happened before the internet, did it really happen? If you can't find it on, if it
Which it
doesn't show up on,
and I'm going to ask you to share a story here at the end here in a second about Harry. You took these pictures, I assume.
I did.
And there's Harry on the left. That is the lovely Lisa Malone in the middle, and Hugh Harris, rest in peace, the voice of NASA, who did a program with us about 2 weeks before he died at age 92.
You can see the bicentennial. still on the-
Bicentennial, yeah. Hugh and I become fast friends, and then Lisa, he was the lead public affairs officer and the voice of NASA, and then she succeeded him when he retired. And there's Harry, some sort of paperwork in front of you there.
I think that was on his retirement. They gave him like a retirement party out at the Press Dome.
Well, that's your typical business shot that's good for the print. And then that's the personality. I can see a Harry Colcom there. That not
Right.
even meeting him, I can see that little chuckle and his sincere little look there at Lisa and so forth. Just I think that's a pretty cool shot. Looks like he liked wearing golf attire most of the time.
If he had socks on, he was going to a formal affair. That's how you do it. If he never wore socks that I know of, and if he had socks on, it was a formal affair.
I love this picture with Bob Crippen when he must have been center director when they retired him there. Look how young Cripp is, and Cripp, of course, the pilot with John Young, the commander of the first shuttle, and he was a center director for a couple years. I don't think he really enjoyed that, but he was glad he had Hugh Harris, his first appointment there to do stuff like that. But tell us the story, Carleton, as I make this smaller. Usually stringers, like I was a stringer photographer for the Associated Press in New York City and all that stuff, and so I'm always needing money. And I just gave you 4 or 5, pieces of work here, photos, and I'm a little tight on money, Harry. When can I get my check?
He was, well, I always kid people around. It's like my mom was going to disown me and adopt John Zarella. And I said, well, you do that, then I'm going to get Harry to be my dad. I'm going to have him adopt me. Harry was the kind of gentleman, and I use that term, it's not even high enough for him. I would do a job for him. I would take office down to Cocoa Beach. I would give him the pictures. I would give him an invoice. He, on the spot, would pull out his personal checkbook and write me a check for whatever the invoice was, so that I didn't have to send it to New York, or Washington and wait 2 or 3 months maybe to get the money back. He would pay me on the spot out of his own personal checkbook and then send it in so he could get reimbursed. So if somebody had to wait for the money, it was him.
Wow.
And
That is a rare thing in the
I-
news business for sure.
he was the next, outside of my dad, he was the closest thing, I think, even though we're probably the same age.
Yeah.
You know, we were very close in age together.
Well, he passed away too. We wanted to mention that, but that's why I have Carleton on here, because I wanted to promote the man more than me.
I worked with him for 8 years very closely. His wife still lives in Cocoa Beach. He has a couple daughters. One that lives up in Atlanta, and I learned so much about the space program from him and how to do it, how not to. And if it wasn't for him, I would have dropped out years ago.
Well,
I think.
that's some good mentoring there. Tommy Usiak says that this photo was taken in the old press dome, STS-9. He said he thinks, and that would have been John Young's last flight in the first space lab,
Well, it
STS-9.
couldn't have been 9 because I didn't. The first one I did was Challenger 51L. So this was in
Well,
the,
Tom's older than us, so
Well,
just give him his due. Let it make you
okay.
feel good, all right? Don't want him to
was
spit up
9.
on his bib or
at least he
anything
didn't say
there.
it was at the Wright
Sure.
brothers.
Yeah, but no, cool. And you know that I asked you what this guy was like, and that was the first story Carleton told me, that he fronted him the money. The only money I saw from the Associated Press, and this is true, that was fronted to me was a roll of quarters. They gave us stringers a roll of quarters every month.
For the payphone.
For the payphone, sis, for the payphone. So you have no excuse not to call me. All right, I want to hear from you every morning, and I want to hear from you at 5 o'clock every day when you get out of classes at Ohio State. You know, here's a roll of quarters. And you know, people don't even know what a phone booth is today. But I knew where the phone booths were in Columbus, Ohio.
How would you use a quarter to make a call?
Yeah, how would you make a quarter to make a call? Oh, you put it, yeah, exactly. So,
Having worked with him, I'll say this real quick. before we get back. Knowing him that I did, he would be honored to know that. I'm pretty sure he would be honored to know that you're getting this award.
oh, thank you, Carleton.
That
Thank you so
you
much.
embody what he tried to teach people, and be honest, be genuine. Don't put it out there on speculation. Just put it out there and let people run with it. But I think if it wasn't for me, you're the next best thing to win this award.
Well, believe it, crossed my mind. Carleton is going to kill me. Okay, Tommy Usiak and Mark Usiak deserve this. Ken Kramer, one of the monster social media people here. I give them all their due for what they've done here. And I know I'm kind of the new guy on the block, but you know what? This is an award for the American Space Museum, not me. This is something that my sister knows that this is, I'm all my life. I've just loved it. I told her that, Marty, I told my sister that I should have put that on here and didn't have much time, but Wilson, Wilson's first name, he had a swear jar. Lee Wilson on here, communicator out Space Center. He could qualify for this. He had a picture of a swear jar, mason jar, swear jar that had just a couple bucks in it, and the other jar was talking about astronomy when other people didn't ask, and it was stuffed with money in there.
Well,
That's me.
I spent holidays over at their house. I spent a lot of time
I
outside of
appreciate
work.
that.
And you're probably the first one in my memory that I haven't been jealous of winning, going like, what's they got that I don't got? What
Well,
am I?
thank you.
know, and so
That's
I
nice.
am not jealous whatsoever. You deserve it.
Well, I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah, he
Thank you.
does.
Well, John Tribe, the great NASA legend, the English hypergolic guy that Marty and I in the whole museum know real well. He was the first one to congratulate me when it got through the circles, And that meant so much that John was congratulating me first. But then he said, I knew Harry Colcom very well for years. He would approve. And that just like verklept me for sure.
He would.
Thank you very much. Um, oh, Tom says he had a brief senior moment. Sorry, there, STS 9 there.
Brief.
But okay, just a couple brag shots out of my brag book. Just that, yes, this is me in 1972, probably. Those are that little telescope's my very first one that Mom bought me for Christmas at 8 years old. So it'd been 1961. Or probably 63, I'm thinking.
I had a shirt like that.
From J.C. Penney's, and I'm trying to look for it on eBay. And the other one's a 6-inch Dynoscope that cost $200 of my money back in 1968, and still have that telescope. I don't have the little one, but I have the other one on there. And I made this sketch on the night of July 20th, 1969, when the boys were walking on the moon. Never will forget that. And John Glenn was very much in my world as an Associated Press photographer, going to Ohio State in Columbus, Ohio, as he was the state senator. And I went to probably 10 press conferences with him, and I've told you a bunch of stories about him back then. But little did I know that one day I would sneak his hat out of the case and put it on with the proper background of things we have about John Glenn in there. The actual hard hat that he wore around the Space Center there. And of course, the outreach here at the American Space Museum, I've been so happy to do. This is one of our stargazing events a few years ago. I've been an astronomy educator for over 50 years. You don't like saying that anymore, but I do. When y'all heard of the Hubble telescope, well, I took around the wonderful discoveries of the Barney Rubble telescope that you see there, and I had a lot of fun. Of course, everybody knows I like having fun. The cover there with the aliens is completely to just get people to stop and look and talk to you and so forth. This is right out front on Route 1 in front of our museum. And then throwing you the peace sign with a blown space glove there, a part of one there. So that's just a little bit of look down memory lane there for me. I'm, again, honored, blown away as it would speak. This was something I'd never crossed my mind. I remember making a big deal about it when the first time Nick Thomas of the Kennedy Space Center was on here, and I go, that's a really something, blah, blah, blah. And so he's coming on the show Monday, Marty. I hope he doesn't bring his trophy in to give back to me and send it back to them there. So,
well, you told me weeks ago, and you can check with the UCX. Not once have I badmouthed you. In fact, I didn't even tell them. I haven't told anybody. So,
thank you. Well, I mean that sincerely. I'm not say the word qualify, but
you're overqualified.
And thank you, Dr. Al Kohler was the member of this museum that recommended me for this award. Another legend of NASA, Dr. Kohler. I love him to death too. So we're going to have going to get out of here, and it's at the Radisson, and Marty's there, and the whole group's going to be there. My sister's going to be there. It means so much to me that Sherry flew in for this.
Starman.
Thank you.
They call him Starman.
They call me Starman up there in Findlay, Ohio. Doug Forrest, thank you for watching, my friend, and congratulate me. Steve Jokums, I missed Quali 1 in Mexico today. We're big Formula 1 fans, but I'll be watching it tonight. And Tom Usiak, always great to talk to you. Tom Celentano, appreciate your well wishes. Mitch Rothman is another person, Mitch. We're so great that Mitch has embraced our museum and gets us. That's what I'm about here at this museum. My liaison work and what I've done is just building bridges to you people out there that can help move this museum in a financially solid and respectable position in the space community. And with Gabriel and I together, we feel we have a good tandem here that for the next 6 months, we're just going to give it our all. Bill Whiting, thank you for your congratulations, as well as Dave Stange. They're unfortunately up at that state up north, Michigan,
Oh,
up,
wow.
up from up there. But they're still good guys. So we tease them a lot about that. John Graham is here, and your wife Samantha. We're gonna do some great things with them. And Bryant Camp, a new name out there. Thank you, Bryant, for your things. And he's got a question about Mars. Mars is in the morning sky right now on there. We did have a question that Marty wanted to propose. Marty, your question, and see who's got the answer.
Okay, the question was, where did the term paperclip come from? And Steve Holcomb, Steve, I'm going to give you 90% on that one. Steve got 90% correct.
Okay.
He says the term project paperclip comes from the paperclip that Ordnance Corps officers attached to the folders of rocket experts they wanted to bring to the United States after World War II. That's true, but as many rocket scientists that they brought over as many or more chemists, scientists, and engineers. A lot of biological warfare type of scientists. So
All right.
90%.
Now that's an engineer taking 10% off because you didn't say chemists, okay? But Steve Jokums is our Ken Jennings for sure of the Jeopardy fame on there. And I don't mind it at all. Somebody's got to know the answers, and Steve is probably didn't even have to look that up. So, but thank you for everybody. Thank you for a question there, Marty. And again, as we go out here, thank you all for your well wishes for this award. Another person that has helped make this possible for me is Marty Winkle. Marty and I met here at the museum. He has been, yay, Marty,
Yay, Marty.
being the volunteer here to show up now for. We're on our 1,155th episode. He might have missed 10 or 12 at the most, and I've missed 5 or 6. But Marty, you have really come on too. He was never going to be on the microphone. Okay, he said, "Don't talk to me, don't draw me in." And I said, I listen to talk radio all the time. The talk radio guys are always talking to their producers. That's part of the exchange. I have to talk to somebody. Well, you can keep talking. I ain't going to answer you. And then the UCAC family bought us a microphone, and now you're doing questions. But it's because Marty's has seen where we're going and what we need to do, and I just appreciate him so much. He's a great guy outside the museum too, and has a wonderful family here. And though he's a few years older than me, you wouldn't know it the way he stays physically fit there. So thank you, Marty. I mean it a lot. This award I share with a lot of people here, and you're one of them. So everybody, thanks a lot for joining us today. Didn't think we'd go to an hour, so we're gonna hightail it about 30 miles south of here to Cocoa Beach and have a wonderful evening of fellowship with a lot of other people who are getting just as important awards as me. And of course, I'm going to bring it in and show it off to you Monday if Nick Thomas will let me in the door with it here. So,
If your head can fit.
Eddie, have anything else over there on our Streamlabs board there, Marty? Thanks again, John. Everything good?
Yeah, just a lot of people saying congratulations, Mark.
They are, and I really appreciate that. And I won't let you down. Okay, let's put it that way. For me, I just feel this is the beginning, and I can't wait to go and see some of my friends like Carleton. Thank you for being here, Carleton, buddy. Appreciate that a lot. You're a great friend. We're friends outside this place. We know where each other lives, and you can't believe Fodzilla here how many cousins and aunts and uncles he has at your house there, buddy. So Fodsy, thank you too, buddy. Okay, on there. So
You definitely deserve it.
well, I appreciate
Very
that.
proud of you.
Thank you, honey. Appreciate my sister here. It means a lot to have her here, and my daughter Jessica would be here, except McKinley, our 3-year-old, is going to have her birthday tomorrow too. So she's got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Love you, Jessica. Thank you also for always being out there willing to stop and look through Daddy's telescope, no matter what, because she knows my feelings would be hurt if she didn't, just like yours, right? So thank you, Cher. Appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate you all. We'll crank it up again next week. We're going to get a lot of guests. November is going to be a guest list month that you won't believe. But until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us. Thank you for all the love, folks. I really appreciate it.
Stay curious.